to be able to do a live talking through narcissism, narcissistic abuse, and how to heal from it. But inside this, we're going to have time just for question and answers. So if you have questions, drop them into the chat. I'm going to be answering. I'm going to be talking through this piece of healing from narcissistic abuse. What does it actually look like? What does it actually mean? And you might be wondering, why do I need advice from this guy? Well, I'm a narcissist, and I've been a person who has done all of the things that the guy is doing to you right now. So inside of this, I have like the insider view of it to be able to see and understand what he's doing, why he's doing it, what's actually going on, but more importantly, how it's shifted my life to be able to heal, how that means it most people think is not possible, but that means for you, it is possible. But you have to be able to shift your focus off of the toxic guy that's in your life and shift it back onto you. If you don't focus on you, you never heal. This whole piece of the narcissist always winning, he wins when you have the focus of everything being about him. When you start taking back your power and start focusing on you, everything starts to shift. Everything starts to change. But the majority of times, people can't focus on themselves. They're focusing on the narcissist, the fear, the obligation, the guilt that's been placed upon them for such a long period of time. So I want you to consider inside of this piece of narcissistic abuse, where are you at in the journey? Do you have a trauma bond? Are you addicted to him? Do you keep going back to him over and over? Are you stuck inside of this loop that doesn't seem to end, or no cycle that seems to stop, but it's just going and going and going? Where are you at on your healing journey of dealing with narcissistic abuse? Drop questions that you have down below. We're going to be answering a bunch of different questions tonight. We're going to be rifting through a bunch of different question scenarios. So whatever questions you have, drop them in the comments, drop them in the chat, and we're going to go through those tonight. Healing from narcissistic abuse is one of the hardest pieces because most people get trapped in what we call a trauma bond. A trauma bond is like this addictive cocktail that leaves you stuck with the person, either mentally or emotionally, or leaves you trapped in a place that you don't know how to get out of. The problem is the majority of times therapists, like other people, counselors don't even know how to get you out of a trauma bond. We've worked for a while to be able to see how to actually liberate women from toxic relationships and from the trauma bond, the addictive cycle going back to them over and over and over again. I call it the freedom formula. It's been a formula that we've created to help people get clear on the story that they're telling themselves, the subconscious programming that's happening underneath, and to be able to help you actually be free. So inside of all this, what questions do you have about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, healing inside of it? We're going to be talking through that tonight. But this chat is going to get really, really slow and not very exciting unless we get some comments, unless we get you asking some questions pertaining to you, pertaining to your own situation, what's happening, what's going on. You're like, I'm not sure about this. Can I ask about this? What is he thinking? All those aspects, feel free to drop that down below. Inside of all of this, when you're dealing with a narcissist, and you're dealing with a trauma bond, you're dealing with this piece that ends up being this addictive cycle back and forth. It could be with the same guy. It could be with the same type of guy, just different faces. New name, new face, but the exact same type of person. Oftentimes you'll see where you get used to being in a toxic situation and it feels normal. So as a result, you continue to go back to normalcy. You go back to the toxic environment, whether it's the same person or a different person, you'll see that happen. We see this happen a lot of times when people have grown up in a toxic environment. You grew up with narcissistic parents. You grew up with people that weren't able to have emotional space or safety for you. And so as a result, it gets really difficult to be able to work on you. So inside of this, drop any comments down below, drop any questions of where you're at inside of dealing with narcissism, narcissistic abuse, the toxic guy that's in your life. And you're like, I don't understand this. I feel crazy because of the relationship. I feel crazy because of everything he's saying. I feel like I'm always the one that's to blame. All of that, drop it down below, okay? Because we want to talk about that. Check on my dogs. They like to get at the fence for the other dog on the other side. All right, what questions do we have? Drop them down below. Where are you now? I'm sitting at my kitchen. Comment, Footy, that's awesome. You commented, I appreciate it. Thank you. 37-year-old man, and I'm struggling to find work. I want to start a business and sell stocks. I love socks, and you seem like a sock lover too. Nope, not really, but thanks. I'd like my situation clarified. All right, perfect. So drop in whatever your situation is, drop in what you're experiencing, drop in the facts about what's going on, and let's talk about it. One of the things you have to realize when you're in a toxic relationship is you will get blindsided by everything in the world, and you will only be viewing it through the aspect and the mindset of your feelings. Now, feelings aren't a bad thing. right? Feelings are just a piece that are exposing, hey, there's something there, there's things that are going on. But inside of this, I want you to see and understand, a lot of times you'll get to a place that the feelings will start to dictate your facts. So consider inside of this, one of the goals that we have to get you clear on is like, what is being shown? What is being demonstrated? Oftentimes we'll get to a place where people will be stuck inside of a toxic relationship and they will have almost this refusal to actually look at what are the facts of the situation? What is the reality of what's going on? Now I have a video that talks about like the one word that's going to shift and change everything of how is the narcissist, is he changing? Is he growing? Is he being truthful? Well, the biggest piece is what is he demonstrating? Actions speak louder than words. But a lot of times when you're in a romantic relationship, you're not really looking at the actions. You're taking the words because you want to believe the best about the other person. So what questions do you have about narcissism? Narcissistic abuse, drop those down in the chat. Let's talk. Let's work through those today. What do we got? Everybody's slow to the draw today. Where are we at in dealing with the toxic relationship in your life? Or you might be wondering, is my relationship toxic? Is it bad? I might have to restart this because we got a bunch of spam in here. Let's see, my ex-narcissistic husband turned our young adult children against me after I went no contact. How did this happen is beyond me. Any advice is greatly appreciated. So how they do it really is the aspect of while they're telling you one thing, they're communicating another thing to the kids. It's the basic idea of triangulation. And so when a person is being triangulated, it's this aspect where he's telling you one thing, he's telling the kids another thing to try to pit the kids against you, to try to make you out to be the bad person. Inside of this, it gets really difficult at this stage and at this age, because once they go no contact, it's almost impossible to win them back. That's just the reality. It's not happy, but that's just the reality. It's almost impossible to win them back. What you have to do, the only way that I've seen people win back their kids is by showing up consistently and just being yourself. And eventually the kids start to look and be like, wait a second, it doesn't seem like just had a phone call, so that might have messed up the audio. Sometimes it does. Do people with depression have a higher chance of being a narcissist? No. Not at all. Those are not linked directly. Is it bad to be in a relationship and they're making you scared of them? Is it bad to be in a relationship and they are making you scared of them? 100%. That's coercion. That's control. That's manipulation. That's abuse. Like that's someone of like, let me make you scared of me so that you stay or so that you do what I want you to do. Like basic level coercion, manipulation, that's abuse. Nobody ever should use children for weapon or pawn. Yeah, but unfortunately, a lot of times narcissists do. They will leverage the kids to be able to get back at you. They will leverage the kids to be able to control you. They will leverage the kids to be able to have the kids say different things that activate you. And then you look like the crazy one. You feel like you're the one that's insane. And then you're like, what's going on? And then the kids think you're the one that's weird. But in reality, a lot of times he's pitting them against you. Amazing journeys. Yeah, absolutely. What other questions do you have just about your situation? I don't want to believe kids won't have an eye-opening someday. I don't want to believe kids won't have an eye-opening day. So a lot of times they do, but the problem is it can be typically later on in life. So like if the adult kids are basically gaslit and become flying monkeys of the narcissist, they might not actually see it till mid-30s. That's what the Covert Passive-Aggressive Narcissist by Debbie Mirza, that book, will oftentimes reference, that a lot of times they won't wake up to the reality till mid-30s. Now, sometimes you'll have kids in between like 11 and like 18 that will wake up and see it. But once it's the adult kids, that's where it gets really hard long-term. Welcome. Glad you made it. Oh, because I was in a bad relationship and it made me scared of him, so I never went around him. Well, it's good. Hopefully you broke up and then you never went around him again. He isn't typical narcissist according to what I've read. There's been a lot of lies talking to the woman, even though he knows it upsets me. He never says he loves me, but keeps coming back. In my book, that's typical narcissist. Like based on what I work with on a day-to-day basis, that's typically narcissistic. Like what I've seen and what I interact with. I work with a lot of different women who've been stuck in toxic relationships and a few men that are in the narcissist. And so helping them actually heal and grow and develop. What can you do to stop post-abuse? Great question. The post-abuse after a breakup, after a divorce, can be really difficult because you have to set up healthy boundaries to make sure that it stops. Now, it could happen through the kids, which means if he's calling to talk to the kids, he needs to talk to the kids only. He can't know that you're in the room. He can't see you because he's going to say things to try to be able to trigger you. right? There could be other levels and other pieces. I'm not going to dive into all of it. So you might want to ask a specific question about post-abuse because there's a lot of different types of it. Hopefully that makes sense. I have so many narcissistic traits, but I have empathy for other people. Am I a narcissist? So I don't know. Inside of this, if you have those questions, it doesn't mean that you are or that you aren't. What it means is you have a bit of awareness, and then it depends on what are you actually going to do about it. How are you actually going to work on you inside of that? I want you to consider, are those traits that you've had throughout your entire life, through every relationship, or those traits that came out because of the relationship that you're in? Sometimes people get narcissistic fleas. They'll get aspects of narcissism that they pick up simply by being with a toxic guy and figuring out ways to cope that oftentimes might look a little unhealthy. Why does he pull away and come back after he feels like you're gone just to pull away again after you give him another chance? Stacy, that's power and control. So the whole aspect inside of there is that he's in control of when you leave. He's in control of when you stay. He's in control of the narrative. He's in control of the story. Narcissists crave and love control so they don't have to admit that they're a bad person, so they don't have to deal with their own guilt and shame, and so they can be in control of the narrative. So he's pulling away so that you either chase him or that you sit back, and then he comes back and he's like, oh, let me get back with you. So for instance, like there was one couple where she broke up with him, and then he begged and he did everything he could to be back with her. And then they got back together. He got her in bed, and then he just turned over and he was like, nope, we're done, and walked out. Why? Because he wanted control of the narrative. He wanted to make sure he was the one that was in control of the entire piece. So he manipulated her to get back with her just to be in control. Okay? Can you write the name of the book down? You said it too fast. Okay, get it, here we go. It's The Covert, Passive, Aggressive Narcissist by Debbie Mirza. Debbie Mirza, Covert, Passive, Aggressive Narcissist. What do you do if you do something you think is someone, and you think that someone is going to abuse you and they don't? I do not understand that, and I'm not sure what you're trying to actually ask. Okay? He loves me, but always puts me down. So dancer size, I need you to wake up to the reality that he actually doesn't love you, because the person that loves you doesn't put you down. That's like saying, he cares about me, he just slaps me on Tuesdays. Like, we need to wake the fuck up and actually start to realize what you're saying. The person in your life does not love you if he's always putting you down. He does not love you if he's belittling you. Why? Because love doesn't do that. That's manipulation. That's control. He's doing those things so he can still get you back, push you forward, move back and forth, the emotional roller coaster, highs and lows, ups and downs. He does that to control you. He might say he loves you, but his actions do not demonstrate that he actually loves you. How can I have a private conversation with you to get more clarity? You can go to rawmotivations.com, and there's an option there for you to be able to book a call. Why he keeps putting victims down. Who keeps putting victims down? If you think it's me, well, you need to wake up, because that's not the reality here. I work with a ton of people to help them get free and not putting them down. Okay? He is my brother and thinks he needs to protect me from failure. It's still not love if he's putting you down. Okay? Inside of it, the best way for a person to learn is failure. Not like the biggest stuff that's going to ruin your life, but stuff that's actually going to help you learn piece by piece. People learn way more out of failure than they do out of success. So what do you do if you do something wrong and you have a fear of getting hit? That's a trauma response based on the relationship that you've been in, right? Love doesn't hurt. Yes, no, absolutely. Why would my ex keep trying to find out information from my extended family members on me after divorce? I have him blocked on everything. Amazing journeys. That's a really good question. Inside of this, it comes back to the statement of knowledge is power and power is control. And inside of this, there's a weird piece that it doesn't 100% make sense. So I'm going to explain it, but if it doesn't make sense, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. To a narcissist, knowledge is power. But the problem is, if you don't use the knowledge or if you don't act on the knowledge, then knowledge is just a book sitting on the shelf and it doesn't really mean anything. But for a narcissist, it's like, if I know what you're up to, if I know what's going on, I have this like level up. I have this all-knowingness, I have this power, I have this control. And that's what he's looking for so he can feel better about himself. Now, he could use that and ultimately in different ways to try to manipulate, to try to hoover you back, to try to show up randomly at a place that you are, to even just to look better to the family, right? Of, I'm just so worried about her, what's going on, right? He can use that to a lot of different places of advantage, but oftentimes the knowledge piece is him trying to have knowledge over you to have power control over you. Can narcissists change? I know you did, but everything I learned says that they don't. So here's the thing, anybody can change. The difference is a person's willingness to be honest. And this applies to everyone. This is what I need you to hear really quick. Narcissists can change. Empaths can heal. Do all of them? Nope. There's a lot of narcissists that will never heal because they're unwilling to be honest about what's actually happened, what they've actually done, deal with the inner demons of their guilt and shame, process that, work on those different things to be able to acknowledge it and work through it. And there's a lot of empaths. I'm just using that as a general term, not because I really believe in it, but just because there's a lot of women that have been with a narcissist, put it that way, that will never heal. Simply because they're unwilling to do the work to step into the pain and heal. The reason why I said that is just the other night on one of our coaching calls, we had a lady inside one of our calls that was one of her biggest fears. She was like, I haven't moved forward inside of the challenge because I'm just scared of the pain. And I'm like, okay, what specifically? And she said, she gave an example of what it was. And then we worked through the freedom formula. We worked through the process of actually walking her through step by step of like, okay, what's the trigger? What are the emotions associated with that trigger? What are the feeling statements with those emotions? What are you actually telling yourself? And all of a sudden she realized what she was telling herself. It all boiled down to this piece of, it was like, if I'm not productive, then I'm worthless. And then we started writing down all the facts that proved or denied that. And all of a sudden she started realizing like, I feel a lot lighter. And I was like, yeah, because the goal inside of this is that we build a structure and a framework so that you can step into pain and step back out. The goal of working with people and helping coach them is never to leave them stuck, never to leave them trapped in the pain. If you have someone that walks you into the pain and leaves you there, that's not a good coach, that's not a good therapist. Being able to walk you into the pain and give you a path out is ultimately what we want to be able to teach you how to do. So we have this process called stacking that I use every single day. When you work with me inside of our Thriver community, you actually see the stacks that I do. I submit them, I show you guys. Why? Because I lead from what I live. And inside of that, I will show you stepping into the pain and stepping back out. Being able to walk into it and be like, man, this really sucks. And then being able to walk on the backside and be like, oh, I feel a whole lot better. And so a person was able to see that on one of our coaching calls last night and just have this awareness of like, oh, I can actually work and I can actually process the pain. This whole piece of like dealing with it and going into it in such in depth, like I can actually process that, work through that and move forward. That's the whole thing we want to be able to build and help you. Let's see. How on earth you became self-aware? There's a lot of different pieces. I could probably talk for hours just about that whole journey. There wasn't a light bulb moment. Everybody wants to have a light bulb moment, the pixie dust, like the magic, so they can figure out how they can make their narcissist self-aware. For me, I knew there was something wrong with me. Different personality tests, even with work, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, DISC assessment, 16 personalities, all different pieces of it started to identify and show that I processed emotion, feelings, responses, everything was different. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But it wasn't really something that was seeded for a long time. I had narcissism brought up to me. Even my wife said, I think you're a narcissist. I denied it, gaslit her, made sure other people didn't believe her. Ended up getting sent to a sex addiction intensive, came back from that being like, it's not that, so it must be narcissism. There was a long journey inside of this. If you want to hear all of it, I do have my origin story on my podcast called Real and Raw with Ben Taylor. That's a podcast that's on Apple, Spotify, all the different platforms. You can be able to check that out as well, okay? Early on my journey, I could not listen to Ben. Now I'm ready for Raw Motivations. Paris, thank you so much. It's great that you're here, and I'm glad. Like, inside of your journey, I want to be able to help you inside of that. There's a lot of different ways. One of the challenges that we just rolled out again is called Survivor to Thriver. You can go to rawmotivations.com/survivor to actually be able to see it. But it's a 6-week challenge that we actually help people break the trauma bond, eradicate the triggers, step into a place of healing, growth, and development. Helps people step out of survival mode and actually into growth and development. Why do they lie when it comes to the outsider and fail to admit and repent, just silent on the issue, just want to continue normal of how to deal with it? So a narcissist will lie about pretty much everything so that he can avoid accountability and responsibility and so that life becomes normal, right? Normal for the narcissist is him not getting called out for his shit. It doesn't mean that it's been fixed. It doesn't mean that it's better. It just means, oh, at least no one's yelling at me. No one's holding me accountable. No one's calling me out. That's his normal. So oftentimes a narcissist will lie, future fake, gaslight, love bomb, all different versions of lying to try to convince you everything's normal. Everything's fine. Why are you bringing it up? It's not that big of a deal. You're overreacting. All of these different things to convince you that you're the crazy one, and let's just continue moving on with life where you don't call me out. That's the whole goal. Afraid of shame. 100%. Narcissists are afraid of shame. They're running away from shame. Okay. The biggest thing is narcissists are shame avoidant, right? So what he's looking for is he's looking of how do I run away from shame? How do I get away from it? Narcissists are afraid to go down into the depths, the pit, the void of what's actually going on. Because how I describe it is there's this raging river of shame underneath and they don't want to approach it. They don't want to deal with it. That has been a huge piece that I've had to work on over the past couple of years in seeing, understanding, releasing, and even embracing shame. And being able to have it look in a healthy way so I can actually heal, grow, and develop inside of it. So amazing journeys. Would love to be able to work with you. You can go to rawmotivations.com and you can be able to book a call there, or you can jump inside of the Survivor to Thriver Challenge. There's 2 different ways you can interact with me moving into the coaching space. So feel free to reach out. What's that? You could. I don't know. I didn't turn them on. Yeah, they work. How to heal. I'm very triggered by anyone doing something, even by my narcissistic family members. Is there something I could read? One of the books you could read inside the healing space would probably be Psychopath Free. It talks about narcissists, sociopaths, toxic people in general. And that's a really good book just to bring in awareness. As far as like healing, there's not a ton of books that I found put awareness and put action all together. A lot of times it's like one or the other. So a lot of times what we try to combine inside of all of our challenges is where you're listening, hearing, watching, reading, but then you're also writing, talking, communicating, different assignments to try to be able to help you heal. Because if we can help you heal the triggers, well, we can actually help you heal the trauma one permanently. People doesn't want my success, so they drag away to failure. Not sure where we're going with that. You say things so fast I can't even understand or have time to write it down. What's the name of the podcast on Spotify? Totally fine. It's called Real and Raw with Ben Taylor. Real and Raw with Ben Taylor. That is on there, and you can see there's a episode on there that's called My Origin Story. How do you recommend to smoothly leave the house when you have kids? It gets super difficult when you have kids. It does depend on the age, right? That's a piece of it too. If there's been physical abuse that you can actually file and get an order of protection, that's huge, that's helpful. If his name is not on the house, then you can do an eviction notice. You can do a piece where all the kids go out and you all leave and you move in someplace else so you can continue moving through the filing process, making sure that you're safe inside of that. There's a lot of different pieces, okay? I say that not just to have a cop out of an answer, but if you want to ask even more specific, we can talk through individual pieces of it. Just trying to give you a generalized aspect. Typically when we're talking about you leaving physically, filing for divorce, having that awareness come to him, you just want to be careful and you want to be safe about it. The biggest thing inside of the safety piece is if he's already exhibited different pieces of physical abuse. That doesn't have to mean hitting you. It can mean hitting the wall, hitting other things, right? If there's been types of abuse like that that's already happened, you want to make sure that you're out of the house or that you're in a safe place or that you're making sure that you're protected inside of all this. How do you know if a narcissist is realizing he's being toxic and wants to make it up to you, or is just love bombing and keeping you hooked? Gremlin, the biggest piece inside of here is that they continue working on themselves regardless of what you do, and that it's consistent, and there's an honesty piece. So what I normally say, if a narcissist isn't honest, vulnerable, or showing consistent change, leave. Because inside of that, you want to make sure that there's actually something that's changing. If you give them a list of like, hey, if you would have done all these things, then it would have worked out. He'll do those things and he'll go right back to being toxic. That's why you have to be really careful. We teach a lot of times inside of the boundaries/goals of coming up with 6 of them. What are things that are actually going to help move you in the direction that you actually want to see him go, and communicate 2. Don't communicate the other 4, just communicate the first 2. You're never going to communicate the other 4. That's just an option for you to be able to have in the back of your mind. So you have the parachute to jump out of the plane. That you actually have something that is a line in the sand saying, okay, I asked him to get into therapy and that's all I asked him. But I didn't tell him I wanted him to be in therapy for at least 6 months by himself. Why? Because if you tell him all the different pieces you want, he'll give you that and then he'll go right back being to the toxic person. I had someone that I worked with very early on where she was in a toxic relationship, and she mentioned in passing as she was breaking up with him, she was like, if you would have gotten into therapy, then like it might have worked out. That day he signed up for 6 months of therapy. Did he continue all of it? I don't even know. It doesn't matter because we got her free. But inside of this, you have to understand a narcissist oftentimes will do the things you're asking him to do or do the things that he knows you want him to do to confuse you, to leave you stuck. This is all different pieces that we teach inside of the challenge called Survivor to Thriver. You can access that by going to rawmotivations.com/survivor. You can shoot some message that says Survivor. We'll send you the link. It's a 6-week challenge. And inside that, you've got 6 coaching calls with me inside of a group environment. So we can actually work through it together to help you heal, help you learn some of the tools and the science behind what we teach. The freedom formula, rewiring your mindset, all of that is included in there so we can help you heal, grow, and develop, and then not just leave you stuck, but after that, like once you've healed and moved forward, then you can move into one of our accountability programs. So a lot of different pieces of that. You can access that at rawmotivations.com. How do you get over the fear of getting hit? There's different pieces in that might have to be specific to what you're telling yourself, the subconscious programming that's happening. There could be different pieces that it might have to go back and work through on a conscious level through like EMDR therapy, or work through different modalities that are actually going to help you subconsciously rewire on an intrinsic level. There's different aspects inside of that. When the narcissist says you can't communicate, he is a PhD and throws it in my face all the time, that's a way to be able to lord it over you. He makes himself look like the teacher. You're less than. All it is power and control. Okay? They drag me to failure, so how could I win? I don't know what that is saying. I don't understand that. How can you get rid of it without losing? I don't know what you're talking about, like dragging you to failure, so I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, I missed what you said. How much is it? The Survivor to Thriver challenge, the 6-week challenge, is $395, or you can break it up into 2 payments of $197. You get access to the community, get access to the app that we use, all the tools that we have, all the challenge, all the training, all the benchmarks, the community, and also 6 coaching sessions with me inside of a group environment. Definitely be safe in planning to leave. I made the mistake in not keeping quiet about my plan to leave. Yeah, it's hard because when you tell about the plan, a lot of times he'll manipulate, he'll try to control, he'll try to make sure that you don't follow through with the plan. He'll try to convince you that your plan is stupid, like tons of different things to try to be able to get you stuck. I thought that I would get involved with people who are good at studying, they'll lift me up. Yeah, I don't really know. That doesn't seem to have anything to do with what we're talking about tonight. So not sure where we're going with that. But when you're in a relationship with a guy that's toxic, you oftentimes find yourself where you can't even leave. Yeah, you're spam. Goodbye. Okay. You oftentimes have a place where you can't even leave. That's the aspect of the trauma bond. Now, the trauma bond can be there if you're in person, or if you're long distance, or if you're even no contact. You've already broken up with him. It's this piece that pulls you back to this guy over and over. It could be physically, could be mentally and emotionally, where he's living like in your free real estate in your head kind of thing. He calls the cops on me all the time. I was left pregnant in 5.5 months. He came back after baby was born. I went back over a year, found out he was cheating for 8 months. Yeah, a lot of times he's going to keep pulling you back and forth, back and forth. Especially inside of this, if you can get free and start working on you, that's going to be the biggest piece. I moved out and now he's trying to have control. A big aspect inside of that is like being able to stay and have a buffer between you and him so you can actually start to heal. Do you have a program therapy that a narcissist has that can access that will show him he has a narcissistic trait because he refuses to accept he has narcissistic traits? If he refuses to accept he has narcissistic traits and he refuses to be honest about who he actually is, no program, no therapist is going to help him, period. Like, you have to understand the baseline piece of any narcissist healing and any narcissist like changing is honesty. Same thing with you. The only thing that actually help you heal, grow, and change, develop you has to be this first level of honesty. Where are you? What has happened? What are you thinking? What's going on? What are the facts you're believing? Because if we don't deal with the honesty piece first, no narcissism is ever going to get worked on. When my ex found out that I was packing boxes, he knew I was planning my exit. I was served a few days later with a falsified restraining order. I was forced to leave all my stuff, in which he destroyed. Yeah. A lot of times you have to be really careful about communicating your plans because they will sabotage them. 100%. All right, going back to the trauma bond really quick. I'm going to talk about this for a second. When we're dealing with the piece of the trauma bond, it's made up of a couple different things. First aspect is hope and potential, and that you hope that he's going to turn out to be the guy that you fell in love with, that you think there's potential because you see potential in him, but he's not actually living up to that. There's also this piece of intermittent reinforcement, which is the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs inside the relationship. And if you're not careful, you get addicted to those and you start justifying the lows. You start justifying how bad it is because you know it's going to get better. well, this is just a time that he's going through. This is just where he's struggling with something. And then you start doubting and wondering all different types of pieces. And then it gets better and you're like, yay, but then it goes right back. These highs and lows also keep you addicted inside the trauma bond. The third thing that makes up the most part of the trauma bond is the cognitive dissonance. Now, cognitive dissonance is a little tricky, but inside of cognitive dissonance, the base aspect of it is holding two opposing thoughts at the same time. So it could be as simple as he loves me and he doesn't love me. He says that he loves me, but he doesn't demonstrate that he loves me. And you're like, I don't know. Like, I want to believe this because I want to believe that he loves me, but I keep seeing that he's treating me awful. So which is it? And then what happens in cognitive dissonance is you typically make up a third story. You make up something in the middle. Well, he's just immature. He's just struggling. He had a rough childhood. He's going through some things at work. He's really stressed out. But you make up an excuse to live in the paradigm between he loves me and he doesn't love me, between he loves me and he says he loves me, between he's beating me up mentally, emotionally, physically. You have to have something to make it work, to make it justified for you to stay in it. The problem is over a period of time, that becomes your nature, your modality, and the limbo land that you live in for a long period of time. How many of you have struggled with that? Type in limbo in the chat. If you've struggled with this mindset of like, what do I believe? Back and forth. If you've struggled with that, type in limbo into the chat. If you're like, yeah, that's me. I've struggled with the limbo land of being stuck in between two toxic thoughts, two toxic ideas. The problem inside of that is when you get stuck in limbo and you're going back and forth, you're not sure what to do, you don't do anything. Yeah, you make up another story, you make up another thought, you find a narrative that lets you live in it in the moment, but you don't do anything. This is the ultimate win for the narcissist because he doesn't have to control you at this point. He doesn't have to manipulate you at this point. He doesn't have to do anything to you. He just has to leave you inside of this cognitive dissonance. The cognitive dissonance that produces the trauma bond, that leaves you stuck, that leaves you oscillating back to him over and over and over. The piece inside of this, all he has to do is leave you stuck between those two thoughts and never have clarity. When you don't have clarity, you stay in confusion. When you have confusion, you don't move. You don't move inside these situations, you die. Like the version of you disintegrates. The version of you is lost. So when you look back in the mirror, you look at yourself and you're like, wait a second, I'm not the person that I used to be. How I used to show up, how I used to have dreams and confidence and actually a will and a self-will and a self-respect, I don't even have that anymore. Why? It's because you've been stuck inside the middle of this limbo land for such a long period of time that you've conditioned yourself not to move. And when you don't move, you die. There's a version of you that disintegrates and disappears, and you end up even doing the abuse for the narcissist because at that time, you're keeping yourself stuck mentally and emotionally for such a long period of time. If you're trapped inside the limbo land, I know how to be able to help you out. Help you out of the freedom, help you to find clarity, help you to find certainty, help you to build confidence again, because I've walked hundreds of women through this process to find freedom. We do this inside the challenge called Survivor to Thriver. I do this more personally with you in the intensive of the Thriver community, and all of that you can access at rawmotivations.com. But inside this, I want you to understand, if you're stuck in the limbo, you get to a place where you think that there's no way out of it. That's a lie. That's a false thing that you believe to keep you stuck. It's another piece of cognitive dissonance. If you're stuck in limbo land, understand that you don't have to be stuck. You can actually be free. Why do narcissists cheat? There's a lot of different ways. Power and control are typically the biggest ones. The excitement of getting away from it, getting away with it, being able to have his cake and eat it too. He's going to find a lot of different ways to try to make sure he has power and control over you. I've been with a lot of narcissists, but this one was the worst, and I have a child with him. You know, when you have kids, it's one of the hardest ones to do. You can still heal. You can still create buffers. You can even go no contact even with kids. It's possible. There's a lot of different nuances to it, but being able to have buffers in between you and him is essential to be able to open up the door to help you actually heal. What does he really mean when he says you deserve better? Stacy, awesome question. Okay, when a narcissist is saying you deserve better, one, he's looking for the validation of you coming back and being like, no, you're a good person. Builds up shame, builds up ego, right? It suppresses his own shame and builds up his ego. There's also this piece of like, you deserve better of like, I'm such a great guy, like you just deserve better than me. It's him throwing himself under the bus so that you save him from being under the bus. It's this whole aspect of trying to put himself down so that you build him up. And majority of times people fall for it. You deserve better. Like that could also be a way that he's using to try to make it sound good of why he's leaving you. I'm leaving you because you just deserve better. That's because he's already got someone else lined up. He's just trying to figure out, how can I sound like the good guy and get rid of you at the same time? So there's a couple different scenarios with that. Some of that might fit, some of it might not, but those are a couple of reasons why a narcissist might say that. I'm going no contact. I'm over it. Thank you. You've helped me watching your videos. If he tries to come back, I will laugh in his face. So Amanda, reach out and let's get you support. If you're going no contact and you're doing it cold turkey and you've never done it before, or you've never stayed consistent with it, let's get you some help to help support you. Some community, some people are going to help support you inside of that. With what you've said so far, I would recommend you stepping into the Survivor to Thriver Challenge. It's just an opportunity and an option for you to move into community, some coaching calls, some opportunity to have tools to be able to handle as soon as you go no contact to start the healing process. That's a great time for you to start focusing on you and have something that's guiding you, like structure that's actually aligning you to you, because otherwise it makes it so easy if you're isolated and if you don't have structure to help you move forward, that oftentimes you'll just cave and you'll go back. And sometimes we're like, I'm not gonna cave, I'm not gonna do it, but you find a time when you're lonely, when you're sad, when you're sitting there and you're just kind of like in your feels and you're like, oh, man, maybe I should reach out because it wasn't that bad, right? Like you find ways to justify it. So reach out. We'd love to be able to help you. You can go to rawmotivations.com, click on Survivor to Thriver. It gives you an option inside of our programs there. We'd love to have you move forward. We recently just had like several people sign up. I think like three or four people sign up the past couple of days. So it'd be great for you to walk through it with people at the same time that are already going through it. And there's already people ahead of you that can reach back and offer encouragement and hand up as you can move up that healing mountain. Are your programs expensive? I'm a pensioner with no extra money. Great question. So Survivor to Thriver is $395. And inside of that, you've got the 6 week challenge. You have access for 2 months. Inside that, you can break it up into 2 payments of $197. So it's able to split it up for a little bit. If you're like, hey, that's out of the budget and there's no way at all, then I'd invite you to go to escapetoxicity.com, and that's our 7-day challenge. Inside that, it's 7 days, $7. So something to at least get you help at some level, but that also provides a little bit of community and a little bit of tools. And it's just helping you actually just get ground level stuff of like, let's get you some support so you can help heal in a more structured way than just scrolling on social media and just binge watching my videos. My videos are helpful, right? I'm not saying my videos aren't helpful. They bring an awareness. But oftentimes inside of that awareness, there's not action that happens on top of it. And that's what we do inside the challenge. Accountability, action plans, tools, community, all of that to be able to help you move forward step by step. The big piece inside of this is we have to help you see and understand how, and also to work through breaking the trauma bond. Many times people don't know how to break the trauma bond, and they also don't know how to process their triggers, how to process their emotions that are going all over the place while they're in a toxic relationship. Think of it for a moment. Everybody in your life is going to have moments that they get triggered. You're going to have moments that you get triggered. You're never going to be free of triggers 100%. Triggers are just going to happen because you're human. The difference is being able to have the ability to work through the triggers, process the triggers, and release the mental and emotional hold that those triggers have on you. Okay, that's one of the biggest pieces. We teach you how to be able to process and work through the triggers that keep you spiraling out. One of my favorite examples was a lady named Cotina. Before she worked with Raw Motivations, she had a moment where she was at a stoplight or something like that, and her narcissist pulled up beside her and like spun her out, like spiraled her out because she knew he was pulling off and he was driving to the affair partner's house. They just wrecked her for like a week. Then she had the same exact thing happen when she started working with us, but she'd already had some tools underneath her belt. He pulled up beside, rolled nose and tried to talk to her, then drove off to the affair partner's house. And inside of that, what happened is she pulled up to the side of the road and she actually worked through some of the tools and worked through dealing with it so she could actually find like freedom inside of it. Like it didn't spill her out for like a week. She was back on track in like a day. It was awesome. All right, that is the dogs going after the neighbors. Hang on. All right, inside. Come on. Come on. Go on. Chill. All right. Where are we at? Can you explain what you meant by not believing in empaths? I was trying to give the example that I'm not just going to group all people that have been with narcissists as empaths, because I don't think that's a fair assessment. And I don't like the whole crusade that a lot of times empaths run on of like, well, I'm an empath, so I can't help it, or I'm an empath, so that's why narcissist is attracted to me. No, because that's just not true. Narcissists are attracted to people who don't know who they are and who don't have boundaries. And as a result, they're easy to manipulate, they're easy to condition, they're easy to put in different scenarios so they're in control of them. The empath piece is a whole piece that has way too much credit, I would say, or way too much peace. Now, are there people that are empathic that feel? Yeah, 100%. Everybody does. And some people feel more than others. Like, that's not to be discounted at all. But the whole aspect of like using it as a label to say, well, this is why I got abused, or this is a piece about it, oftentimes it can move people into victimhood, and it doesn't actually put an empowering story for their own freedom. Otherwise, it's like, well, I got abused because I'm an empath. Like, no, like that has nothing to do with it. It's everything to do about the narcissist, and then has everything to do with what are you actually going to do to heal it, move forward. Does starting a new relationship free you from the narcissist, especially if the new one is a happy one? No, it doesn't. So the fallacy inside of this is like, well, if I get into a healthy relationship, then it'll be good. The problem inside of this is when you get into a healthy relationship, you're actually going to implode it. And I've seen this happen too many times. If you've been in a toxic relationship and you haven't spent time healing, you carry all of your baggage into the next one. You carry all of the stuff into the next one, and then everything that is actually safe and nice, everything that's actually at a place where it's like, oh, this is great, you implode, you explode. Because all of a sudden, everything that's peaceful, everything that's good, no longer feels safe, no longer feels normal. Because you've been conditioned for such a long period of time that the abuse was normal, that the toxicity, that was just status quo, like that was just part of your life. So you move from a toxic relationship into a healthy one without healing, you'll freak out. Because peace on the other side of toxicity feels super weird. Because if you haven't healed from it, it doesn't work. Mike, appreciate it. Would love for you to reach out. The challenge that I have that both men and women can go through would be survivor to thriver. That'd be the best way to partner with me, but also to actually see the step-by-step process to heal. So if you want to go to rawmotivations.com/survivor, that's a place where you can help in that. That is, I'm assuming that you've been with a narcissistic woman and that's what you're dealing with. I know George on here has as well. George, I'd recommend the same thing. Go to rawmotivations.com/survivor. If you've been with a narcissistic woman, that'll be a piece there. What do narcissists do with gifts that the old supply has given them, even if they are sentimental? For the narcissist, it just depends. It's not necessarily sentimental for the narcissist. It just depends if they want to use that gift later to establish contact, to reach out, to interact. All those things could have a piece where they can still hold on to them. I have a fear to attract another narcissist, to be honest. So, Gita, if you haven't healed, you have a high propensity that you will. If you've already seen this be a piece of like, hey, it's happened multiple times, you might see this happen again because people will fall into addictive cycles of being with toxic people. And unless they heal, break the trauma bond, learn to have healthy boundaries, learn to know who they are so they no longer go back to that type of person, then oftentimes they will get sucked back into the same type of person, the same type of trauma again and again and again. I can't process my emotions. Mike, we teach that inside of there. Just, I need to know where you're coming from. Are you the survivor side where you were with a female narcissist? Or are you like, hey, I'm more like the toxic guy, identify more with me? Well, then we'd have to talk in a different frame, okay? Why do you love the world? Not sure what you mean by that. How long does it take to heal? Najee, it's a really good question. Healing has no timeline. It sucks because I wish I could say, hey, you can get healed in X amount of time. But anybody that tells you that you can get healed in X amount of time, like, doesn't know you. Everybody heals and everybody processes things differently. Do I walk people through timelines? Yeah, because it helps you to stay on track. It helps you to continue to show up for you. But it doesn't always mean that everything in your life is going to get fixed or it's magically going to get better. The big thing inside of this is trying to make sure that as you walk through step by step, we're helping you heal step by step in this. People that chase healing, okay, people that are obsessed of like trying to heal the slowest. People that are consuming data, people that are learning tons of stuff, people that are just scrolling and consuming all the social media about narcissists, oftentimes heal the slowest because they're in a consumption mode and not in a creation mode. They're in a mode that's just taking in information, but not actual action that puts into place. This is why all of our challenges center around community, center around connection, and center around the science of what we teach, which is actually rewiring the mindset. Shifting it and help people take what they learn and putting it into practice, giving them tools that they can access, like Kotina did on the side of the road as soon as she needed it, right? Because we want to be able to help you actually be free quickly, not this long process. Again, there is no timeline for it. But what I've seen more and more is the people that show up consistent, investing time and energy into themselves in a structured healing process, heal the fastest. People that are just like, I want to do everything to heal. They're chasing shiny objects and they're not actually doing the small daily work to heal themselves. Healing is really boring. A lot of people are like, oh, it'd be so exciting because I get this done, I get this done, get this done. Healing is boringly showing up for yourself in a discipline and consistency that helps produce a long-term effect. Okay. I went no contact and have a permanent no contact order in place. Why is he still contacting me with text? Knowing this, is he not afraid of being arrested? He's not afraid of being arrested, and he also doesn't care, which means you need to take like screenshots and keep track of that every single time. And I would keep reporting it. Every single time, report it, because you have to train him that you're gonna have the same response. So if, for instance, you don't do a response, you don't respond to him, then he knows, okay, my text got through, it might have triggered her, it might have made her frustrated, it might have done whatever, and he still feels like he has power and control. But if every time you text him, he gets a call from his lawyer being like, dude, why did you text her? Then all of a sudden he starts to slowly get trained. When you're dealing with the no contact piece, when you're dealing with co-parenting, when you're dealing with communication with a narcissist, it's kind of like training a dog to pee outside. You have to get used to taking the dog outside every time so the dog knows, oh, I pee outside. For a narcissist, you have to have the same exact response every single time. If you get a different response, he's like, ooh, I got a different response. That means I can get a different reaction. That means I can be in control. This is all this power and control that comes out of it. A narcissist oftentimes will get bored of doing the same thing to you if he's always getting the same response. But for the majority of times, a narcissist loves coming up to you, pressing all your buttons, getting a different response, and being, aha, I caused that. So you have to be careful of that, okay? What keeps you grounded in life? That's a really good question. It'd be a couple different things. It'd be God, it'd be meditation, it'd be therapy, and be stacking. All of those things keep me grounded. Stacking is probably one of the biggest thing that crosses all of those because it's my own therapy, it's my own reframing, it's my connection to God, and it's actually keeping me grounded on the things that I need to do, process, and work through every single day. That's one of the biggest things we have that we teach every single person is stacking, which is the process of rewiring, reframing your mindset. Get them arrested because or to harass you? Yeah, 100%. Do people with depression have a higher chance of being a narcissist? No. Or does a narcissist have a higher risk of depression? No. Anytime you talk about like someone with narcissistic traits that be more of depression, we'd be talking more of like borderline, BPD personality than you would narcissistic. A lot of times narcissist personality disorder doesn't always link to depression. Can it? Yeah, I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying the majority of times it's going to be with borderline. It's not necessarily going to be with narcissists. Thank you for clarifying. Learning that I was an empath helped me understand how my mom picked me to abuse as opposed to my siblings. That alone helped me heal. I can care without caring about her. Yeah, 100%. Like being able to know like the difference of like you can care for a person, but not have this piece of like care that's like consuming or like beating you up inside. 100%. I did call the police and they did nothing. He used I don't know excuse. Yeah. So with that, I would say like, yeah, you can call them, you can record it, but it just needs to be a constant thing that's always recorded or always responded to the same exact way, right? Like you could have a set text that you respond to any numbers the same exact way. Be like, no thanks, like whatever it might be, right? It might be like, I know who this is, but you're not gonna contact me and I'm not gonna respond. And that's all you send. It has to be something like very simple, but it's always gonna be the same thing. But otherwise, I would just record it every single time. And that way when the police are like, hey, has this been going on? You're like, yeah, here's like the past 6 months of all the text messages. And they're like, whoa. And you're like, yeah, I've been telling you guys, but you haven't been listening. So, his dad and brother are law enforcement officers, would make things hard 100%. It's super hard when you have narcissists that are in law enforcement or when they're in that area. Sometimes it can help if you can relocate. Obviously that depends with like kids and stuff like that. Sometimes that can be difficult. I don't feel anything anymore in regard of love. I feel bored and automatic, in touch, a trauma inside, 2.5 to 3.5, and I don't know how to clean what this relationship touch. That's the goal. I'm struggling with that. I don't really understand the question. Inside of the piece, like with the trauma that's inside, with the trauma that you're working through, like we work through a process of helping you rewire, which is the aspect of working on the conditional programming that's been programmed into you from an early age, or that's been programmed into you from a narcissist. Either way, you can still have the subliminal programming that tells you that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy. All this we touch on inside of their challenge, Survivor to Thriver. You can access it at realmotivations.com/survivor. Or if you want to book a call and talk to me, you can go to realmotivations.com. I'd love to be able to help you move forward and see what might be the best option in partnering together with your healing. The goal inside of everything I do is to work with you to help you heal, right? It's not a piece I don't have a piece where I just sit down and I just do like one-on-one calls with people and just do that on a weekly basis. Because what I've seen so many times inside of healing from narcissistic abuse is it's actually pointless. I've seen so many people that we help get them free mentally and emotionally one week, and then they fall into the pit throughout the rest of the week, and then we get them free and grounded the next week, and then they fall into the pit the next week, and then we get them back to the truth of what's happening, and they fall into the pit next week. I got frustrated with it. It was a piece of like, this isn't working. And so we had to develop a system that actually helped people be grounded throughout the week, that helped them actually process their triggers, their emotions, start dealing with the trauma bond in a tactful way, in a practical way, so they actually knew this is how I can work through it, process it, and release it so it no longer has control over me. So that's a big piece inside of what we do, taking everything from consumption to creation, everything that's like reactionary in your life to action. I'm excited to start working with you. I'm so ready to heal. Amazing Journeys, would love to be able to help you. I'm excited about that. Let me know, are you looking at the Survivor to Thriver challenge, or do you want to have a chat and then we kind of see from there? We have different intensives, we have different challenges. Inside of that, feel free to reach out, because we'd love to be able to help you inside of that, whatever you're dealing with, and just whatever makes the most sense, right? Of the time, the investment, the piece that you can actually move into growing, developing you. That's kind of the big aspect. Anyways, what other questions y'all have? Any other questions? We're going about an hour here, so we'll probably wrap up in the next like 10 minutes. What other questions do you guys have inside of just the healing space inside of that? Okay, perfect. Amazing Journeys, go to rawmotivations.com and then click on, there'll be like a breakthrough call for women, or actually if you're just on the main page, you can just click on the video there and it'll take you to that page. It'll have you watch a video, fill in an application so I can understand a little bit about you, and then kind of go from there. What's your, if you don't mind dropping your like your first name in the chat, that way I can keep an eye out for it. Abusive relationship with guardian when I was a toddler and I did not remember it till when I made the narcissist, did the same energetic violence and twist mind, love game, and unsafe space. So with that, I would definitely recommend going back into that deep trauma. Would need to be like EMDR therapy, or depending where you live, splunkna. That's a weird word, but inside of it, it's spelled like splank. SPLANKNA. And that's a piece that can actually work on dealing with and going back into different pieces of trauma that you do or that you don't remember to actually clear it so that it's no longer there. I do some of that, but it only can be done in person because it has to do with muscle testing. And inside of that, we can't do that over Zoom. So that's why I don't really talk about it a ton, but I've done that with different people that I've worked with or different intensives that we run. Jen, awesome. So I'll look for it. Just go on there, fill out the application tonight, and then I'll see it come in. If anything, I'll shoot you a text. That way we can connect. Okay. What if for 5 years he didn't want to commit, and 6 months after my leaving, he comes back and asking for a commitment? So what you need to ask yourself is, why then? Why did he wait so long? He didn't wait so long because he didn't want the commitment or didn't need the commitment. He didn't commit because he didn't need to. Like, there was no place where he needed to commit because he had you for 5 years. Then after that, when you finally start to regain your power and you start to actually move forward, he's like, oh, well, maybe if I say I'm committed and I say I'm going to give my commitment, maybe I'll get her back. Maybe I can control her at that point. Maybe I'll reestablish the relationship. Maybe I'll look better. Every single thing. Probably one of my all-time like biggest videos on YouTube is what happened. I think it's a narcissist wants you to leave, right? And it's talking through this piece of how a narcissist wants you to leave, and at the end he changes, right? Everything shifts, everything's different at the end. It's not because he all of a sudden had a wake-up moment, a come to Jesus moment, he suddenly learned and understood everything he was supposed to do. It's because when he changes things at the very end that you're like, oh my gosh, he finally figured it out. He's known this the entire time. He's known this the entire time, and what he's purposely done is he's kept it back from actually giving it to you because he used it to control you. Then when it no longer controlled you, he's like, well, maybe if I give this, I can use something else to leverage and control you. Does that make sense? Neil, let me know if that made sense. Hopefully that connects with where you're at, but that's oftentimes what they're thinking and how they're processing it. I feel it in my body, but don't remember. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Kareen, like that would be the thing that if it's in your body and you can't remember it, that's totally fine. You actually, when that type of deep trauma, you actually don't need to remember it. You don't need to relive it by any means to heal from it. But the two ways that I know that can help clear that deep-seated trauma that you can't remember fully would be EMDR therapy or would be splunkna, which it's written splankna is the best way to put it. Okay? Awesome. I'm glad that made sense. Jen, thanks. Appreciate it. I'll keep an eye out for you. Okay. My partner bugged mine and my children's phones even after separation. What can I do? If he can't be with us, nobody can. Yeah, a lot of times they'll have like that controlling type piece. You can reset your phones. You can get new phones. You can tell the police. Like there's different pieces that sometimes you can leverage, but ultimately you want to be able to switch out stuff so that you ultimately don't have any of his contact. They're the best of the best, master deceivers, cheaters, liars, and it's disgusting. Seems like these type of people are multiplying too fast. A lot of it is happening more and more. I personally believe the rise of narcissism inside of our culture and inside of our world is because of broken families. Because when you have families that are broken, you don't have role models that are actually helping exemplify how to work through shame, how to work through guilt, how to process, how to have an emotionally safe space. And as a result, you have a lot of people that are growing up that don't understand, don't know how to be able to deal with it, like work through it. And it comes out in a lot of abusive ways. I need to ask if I rediscard and went no contact, is it best to say no contact? Yes, 100%. No contact is always the best option and the best piece inside of it with dealing with a narcissist. Because if you're no contact, you can actually have space to heal. You can actually have space to work on you. You can have space and a buffer between you and him to devote inside of your healing. How to lower the dopamine and serotonin that the love bombing created. We have to teach you how to rewire the story that you're believing. The reason why the dopamine, the serotonin is kicking off with the love bombing is because you're believing the subconscious programming. You're believing the story that you're telling yourself. We teach this rewiring process inside the freedom formula, breaking the trauma bond, getting rid of the triggers. All that's included inside of the Survivor to Thriver challenge. George, this is your time to step up and do it. Because inside of this, I've seen you comment a ton. I love that you're here, but I need you to take action. All of the questions in the world will not give you the healing you're looking for because the healing you're looking for needs to have action behind it. And I think you're a person that will actually take action, but I'm calling you out and saying this is the next step for you. Move to the Survivor to Thriver Challenge, rawmotivations.com/survivor. I've got men and women that have gone through that. Some of our other high-level intensives and stuff are only geared towards men or women, but inside of that, we've had men or women that have gone through it that both have been in the same frame, right? They've been with a toxic person, they've been with an abusive person, and that would be a good place for you to be able to interact with me. That'd be a good place for us to work through it, but also give you the tools that right now I know you need. I've seen a lot of your comments. Like you've been huge in supporting. You've been huge in asking a lot of really, really great questions. I just want to take it to the next level so you can actually heal from it. And we can answer a lot of those inside of there, but also give you the tools to heal. Okay? Awesome. I appreciate it. A woman guardian told me what he did and it clearly links. Yeah, so I would definitely like reach into that because like the subconscious piece is hard to be able to heal unless you have some pieces like that I was mentioning. Do I have the authority to reach out to HR if I feel like I'm being threatened by a narcissist at the toxic workplace? Yes, absolutely, for sure. You want to make sure that you're safe inside that. It's so difficult when you have to co-parent. He makes everything challenging intentionally. I'm exhausted. Michelle, that's a huge piece. Check out any of my videos on YouTube about co-parenting because they're absolutely huge and helping you understand that parallel parenting is what we want to help get you to so that you live a separate life from him and that you have the communication be as clean, as separate as possible, and that you practice the BIF method. The BIF method is huge inside of communicating with a narcissist, especially when you have kids. The BIF method, broken down really quick, is brief, informative, friendly, and firm. It's a framework that was created to be able to work with people in high conflict divorce situations. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm. So you keep your messages to them very short. You keep them informational based only, so not feelings, not emotions. Okay, take those out of it, make it more logical. You make it friendly in the aspect of like, hey, this is how you communicate to a not necessarily a friend, but maybe like an acquaintance, maybe like your neighbor across the street, right? You wouldn't be a jerk to them. You'd just be like, hey, this is what it is. And you be firm. Keeping strict with your boundaries is absolutely key and very essential when you're trying to train a narcissist at that point. I have accepted it over for me, but he still wants to check in on me. And I think he wants to just see if I'm happy with not wanting to return into the relationship. He still wants power and control over you. That's it. So inside of that, like you just have to focus on you, which means like if you keep the door open, eventually he'll come back through it. My wife is narcissistic. I'm working in Kuwait now. She is controlling my 10 years child and doing black magic. That's a lot that's tied in with that. Inside of that, the only challenge that I have inside of the survivor frame for guys and for women would be Survivor to Thriver, where you could work with me inside of there, but also have some tools to be able to start learning how to deal and how to manage some of those triggers. Why did he feel the need to hurt me more after getting me back after the first separation? I was in another relationship and left it for him and my family at the time. That's a piece that I would say has to go back to, I don't want to be a broken record, but power and control. But it comes back to him being in control of the narrative, right? And that's the narrative to others for sure, but that's also the narrative to himself, that he's in control of you. So a piece of like him getting you back or him coming back or you going back to him, he's like, oh, she still wants me. I'm still pretty amazing. Like there's multiple levels to it and there's multiple ways. And it's going to be different depending on the narcissist, depending if he's malignant, covert, overt, communal, like all the different flavors of narcissist, if you want to describe it. There's a lot of different nuances between it, but a lot of times it comes back to a piece of control. Getting you away from that person and getting back in control of being over you and then hurting you from there so he's still in control of what's going on. I remember in the past workplace, I dealt with a narcissist who asked me too many personal and medical information and myself way before I had no idea what abuse meant. Is that something I should let someone know about my health? That's up to you if that's something that's like currently going on or that's a piece inside the workplace that you felt like taken advantage of. Like be careful with that and reach out and talk to anybody that you need to inside the workplace. That I don't know exactly, but that could be a piece that you might want to talk to someone. BIF method, yeah, the BIF method is very huge inside of communication. All right, if you're watching tonight and we've talked through different questions that have resonated with you or you see yourself inside of these situations, this is what I work with people every single day. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people across the globe, helping them actually get free from a trauma bond, eradicate the triggers, and move forward. Now, there's two things that you can do. After you watch this video, if you're like, hey, I'm ready to move forward in the healing and I want to jump into a challenge to actually walk me through step by step, then that's where you go to rawmotivations.com and click on the Survivor to Thriver Challenge. It's a 6-week challenge. You get to work with me for 6 weeks. You have access for 8 weeks. We can work out how we ever need to work through it. But you also have tools and a script out plan and growth and development, okay? If you're at a place where you're like, hey, I'm still confused, I'm still lost, and I want more intensive help inside of this, then we'd have you go into our Thriver Intensive, which means you can go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough and click on one of the links there to be able to book a call with me. Inside of this, as you fill out an application, just to be able to assess where you're at in your healing journey, if it makes sense for us to talk and move you towards an intensive, or if it makes more sense for us to move you towards a challenge. Either one is a really valid option and a really great direction for you to heal because they're all scripted out to be able to help you heal, grow, and develop, manage your triggers, break the trauma bond, and move forward. There's just different levels of intensity and different levels of involvement that I have based on which option it gives you and which selection you choose. So hopefully that makes sense. If you're watching this right now and you want further help, please go to rawmotivations.com. We've got all the different options there for you to help you move forward in the healing process. Let me know. You can go onto there and you can submit an application. You can sign up. You can send me an email and be like, hey, I was on the live. Like, appreciate it. Like, this is what I just did. I'd love to be able to work with you. I'd love to be able to help you move forward. But inside of this, I want you to consider, out of everything we've talked through tonight, more answers to more questions will not always be the answer to your healing. And what I mean by this is the people that I work with long-term don't watch my content anymore. If you find yourself binging and consuming narcissistic content to try to heal, that's great to bring in awareness. But long-term, the people that I work with don't watch my content anymore. They don't need to. Because they've broken the trauma bond, they've healed so much, they move forward. We're helping them grow their business. We're helping them in their new relationship. We're helping them develop a connection with God. We're transforming their body. We're transforming all single aspects of their life, and they're no longer consuming this. And the only reason why I bring this up, and it might sound like weird advice as we end this live, the only reason I bring this up because I don't want you just to be a person that's reactively consuming a bunch of content, expecting to find the golden nugget that's gonna magically make you better. It's not going to happen. Healing doesn't happen in isolation, and healing doesn't happen simply by consumption. There has to be action. Every single thing I do with coaching people is bringing you to action. It doesn't have to be a big action. We're not going to sit there. We're not going to play shoots and ladders with your life of moving you 5 steps forward, 10 steps back. That's pointless. But I'm going to help you move 1 step, then another step, then another step. If this resonates with you, then let's talk. Go to rawmotivations.com. The next step for you is to raise your hand and say, hey, I want the healing and I want to actually commit the time and energy to move forward to break this once and for all. Choice is up to you. You can keep consuming, or you can take action for you. Hopefully this has helped. You have a blessed and a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for all the questions, all the interactions. Y'all have been fantastic. Look forward to working with you.